In blocks, here there's a pretty cool in-between move g4 check. And he finds it, look at that. But there's two moves here, king takes, king f6. Both of them not so good. If king f6, there's queen h4, and if queen blocks, then there's mate this way. Crisscross applesauce. And if king takes here, well, you can just win the queen. But here, there's a simple check and mate. Yeah, I suppose so, but also you're up two pieces, so. Okay, well, he doesn't see it. He plays g5 instead, and the game is on. King f5, there's still mate this way. Yeah, that's my bad. Regardless, even if for some reason this does happen, and mate isn't played. Okay, king starts running. Pilgrimage tech. I would just take, and I would make a new queen. You can make queens two sides of the board, and it's pretty free. It's raining currently here. Let's see, Dog Cycle Brandon with 2.5 minutes more than Jinx. Got plenty of time to calculate here. Not certain what's really to calculate, but if he really wants to keep queens on the board, he can play queen h8, I guess. But yeah, takes. Takes. I mean, you might as well take here. And you're going to make another queen on the side of the board. Yeah. Again, takes, and this is completely winning. If he wants, he can do a lot of things here, actually. You can create a wall with the pawns. And in fact, he has done so. So all he needs to do here actually is rook h1, start pushing. And if this takes, then you bring the rook in. And if here, then you win the pawn again. And then you're able to bring the rook to here. And this patrols this entire file. And you can just push this pawn and make a new queen. b5, look, rook f1, h4, all of these win. What's important is that you realize that the important the two key players are the king and the rook, and they're going to always be on light squares. But bishop e4, this is probably a step in the wrong direction. But bishop back, and yeah, he wins the pawn. Yeah, this attacks this pawn. Can defend it like this. Can defend it like this. Bishop b2, not only does it protect this pawn, but it also prepares the idea of this. So we'll probably see, king e6, then h4. There's actually king e6 rook here, and if takes, then it's still completely winning. But yeah, h4, much more practical approach. Yeah, there's not much to say. You can trade bishops, and king takes, and here you have to be a bit careful. It's good that you've made this wall, but I would like to have seen rook f1 first. But the question is, does Brandon know how to checkmate? Probably not. Honestly. Okay, well, b4 is much to do about nothing move. And so the king starts moving, but you have to realize this pawn will stop it. That works too, I suppose. Here, see that it's been cut off. Always remember that there are two squares for the king. So it is not stalemate. There is going to be a queen promoted. Now, here there is an infinite amount of ways to win. You just have to be cerebral about the fact that the king has a lot of squares that it can go to. But yeah, this promotes with check, and go here. There's a few ways to win here. The easiest is just to keep giving checks. Give checks one way or another, and eventually you'll find yourself in the... well, that would have been mate already, so... Yeah. Now, there is ways to almost stalemate. Black offers draw, white declines draw. Fantastic. So, here, thankfully, there's no draw, even if queen here. Yeah, so the king... Okay, so... Queen e5, fantastic. Here, there's very few ways to play. I mean, king g2, you walk into queen e4, and the box gets smaller. My screen is frozen. No, it isn't. Okay, king h3, that brings to king f2, and there is opposition that's been made. There's also king f3, which is probably more reasonable. King f3, if something like king h4, then you have checkmate. You also have checkmate like this, or Yeah, here we go. And this is force mate. King h4 only move, and there's literally like 5 different mates here. Mate, 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 yeah. Mate, like, not like that, but yes. Now let's analyze that, because that was a crazy game. Yeah. Brandon played that basically masterfully. That was just a very strong game. Maybe. But, but, we go back onto the challenge, and we see that it is Brandon. We'll pretend that this is Brandon. That takes a point here. Rentai and Maths are probably not online. Yes, click analyze. Brandon does not know how to analyze a game. Fantastic. Next would be Runtime Maths, but neither of them are actually online, so we'll do Kush Raid versus Midside. So we'll see XTY with the white pieces and Midside with the black pieces. Let's see how they play. Midside creating the game very quickly. And here we see G4, the Grob. XTY pulling out his secret weapon. Let's see if we see the Borg defense. But no, we see knight f6, and this is an interesting line because it justifies g4. You can play g5. But h3 is played instead. Incredible. Yeah, you know, you can just take the center. Okay, we're going to see a Borg defense. Okay, are we going to get the same thing as against Max? Maybe. Bishop h6 instead. Interesting. Here, I would just look to take the center. Yeah, there's actually an idea here, h4. And then if knight takes, then you can justify it with a rook g1. Obviously, you need to take back first, but then you can justify it with a rook g1. But yeah, d4 played, which is fair. Castles, I'm not certain I like castling into what is essentially a loaded gun. But here, yeah, there's knight takes. And X-Titan sacrifices here because if takes, there is obviously here. So instead there's... Oh, maybe this sacrifice doesn't work. Takes. Knight in, attacks bishop all the way back to c5, d6, e6, takes, queen takes queen. Maybe it does work. Yeah, so you can't take back. So maybe bishop g7 is better. So we'll see. With a very pleasant position out of the opening, Suck Dicker 1 is very, very happy here. Here, there is just knight takes h7. And no matter what takes, if say, knight takes, then there is a pretty cool move, which would be that it unlocked the attack on bishop. But e3 is played instead. It's a fair move that hangs the knight in one move, but h4 once again comes with pressure against such a weak king. You might be down a piece, but h4, look at that. And you can't play bishop h6 or you lose to a fork. Oh, and let's see, does XTY see the fork with the pawns? He does! Legendary. And now the question is, what does midside give up? Does he give up the knight or the bishop? Yeah, the king left the door unlocked, and after takes, there's rook g1, and the king's getting ass blasted, so it's a bit rough. And in fact, there's also queen g4, and look at that, there's going to be some threats. Can't do it because this bishop exists, but both of these pieces pretty reasonable for the defense of the king. But if takes, actually, there's e4. Look at that. The bishops will stare at each other. The bishop can't go back because queen g4 will threaten mate. And that's a very, very scary prospect.